The gymnasium lights reflected off the gleaming court as the United States national anthem echoed through the stadium. The audience, anxious, barely blinked. It was the beginning of the 2024 Olympics, but this wasn't just any game. It was the chance to see three legends sharing the same side of the court, something previously unimaginable outside the world of video games or barroom debates among basketball fans. Three icons of the sport, with distinct styles, intertwined histories, and intense rivalries, now wore the same jersey in the name of their country. What had seemed improbable for years had become reality. The crowd rose in unison, and cameras from around the world turned toward the historic moment. The most feared long-distance point guard, the forward known for his versatility and composure, and the veteran leader who seemed to carry the weight of American basketball on his shoulders, all together, side by side. It was a display of raw talent, mutual respect, and above all, love for the game. During those games, magic happened. It wasn't just the on-court chemistry, the flashy plays, or the impossible shots. It was the connection between them, built over decades of matchups, tight finals, and traded taunts. This was more than basketball. It was history being written. But when the Olympic spotlight dimmed and the gold was secured, as many had expected, a question began to linger in the air. What if this extraordinary union could happen again in the NBA? The mere idea stirred up a frenzy. Experts, journalists, and fans began imagining the possible paths, no matter how unlikely. Was it just a fantasy, an impossible wish, fueled by nostalgia and admiration for these icons? Or was there, however small, a chance to turn the dream into reality? Among the many voices, one stood out. During a gripping broadcast, journalist Ashley Nicole Moss, known for her direct analysis and bold predictions, poured fuel on the fire with a proposal that divided opinions. To her, there was a universe where the three could play together, not in an international competition, but in a regular season of the most competitive league in the world. This would be a gift to the fans, Moss said with conviction. It would be like a tribute to the golden age of modern basketball. Imagine seeing these three on the same team, not for a week, but for an entire season, fighting for a title. That would be legendary. The idea revolved around an unlikely but tempting fusion. The California team, already known for being home to great names and for making history in recent years, would be the epicenter of this union. It wouldn't be the first time two of these players suited up for that franchise. But adding the third name to the equation would require more than just managerial skill. It would require courage and luck. The proposal challenged the logic of the sport. After all, they were all in later stages of their careers, with years of experience, achievements, and scars. But the journalist didn't see this as an obstacle, but as an asset. For her, their collective wisdom, combined with their natural competitive instincts, would be enough to lead them to another trophy. Age didn't matter. Hunger for victory did. Even if it's just for one season, Moss continued, the impact would be massive. They have more than enough talent. The rest of the roster could be filled with promising young players and a few supporting veterans. It wouldn't take a superstructure. These three together would change the game. Fans went wild. Social media exploded. The possibility, however distant, of seeing this legendary trio united on a franchise with a winning tradition filled supporters with hope. It would be like one final epic act before time inevitably led each of these names into retirement. However, behind the scenes, a more restrained scenario emerged. Despite the public's excitement, such decisions involved more than desire. There were contracts, loyalties, long-term plans, and, most importantly, the athletes' own mindsets. Not all were ready to give up their personal projects for a collective dream, no matter how glorious it might be. One of them, for example, had made clear his focus on making his current project work. After yet another failed attempt at a title with his team, he reaffirmed his commitment to the roster and the coach, despite criticism and recent changes. For him, changing course now would betray his own journey. I want to see how far we can go with this group, he said in an interview. I still believe we have something special. We just need time. Meanwhile, another development drew attention. Near the season's trade deadline, rumors began circulating about a bold attempt by a California team to bring one of the league's biggest stars onto its roster. The idea was to form an unprecedented partnership, uniting two of the greatest rivals of recent times in the same locker room. The plan, however, didn't move forward. Reliable sources reported that, despite intense discussions, the proposal hit roadblocks due to resistance from the other franchise and hesitation from the player himself, who preferred to stay loyal to his current team. Still, the mere fact that there was real interest already showed that something was shifting behind the scenes of the NBA. The possibility of bringing these three giants together on one team wasn't just the theory of enthusiastic fans or dreamy journalists. It was an idea that, despite all its challenges, was gaining traction in negotiation rooms and in the quiet corridors of the league. Was it the beginning of a new super team, or just another story to feed the NBA's mythology? As the questions piled up, one certainty remained. The basketball world would never stop dreaming of that moment. In the silence of meeting rooms, far from the spotlight and the noise of packed arenas, executives discussed possibilities that could change the course of the NBA. The league had already lived through the era of super teams, but the idea of bringing together three of the greatest contemporary idols seemed bold even to the most visionary minds. On the side of the interested franchise, there was enthusiasm, yes, but also caution. Forming a trio with players of that caliber required more than just space on the salary cap. It was necessary to find the right balance between egos, legacies, and ambitions. After all, each of them had carved their own path with autonomy, leading teams, facing adversity, and proving their worth in the most critical moments. Bringing those journeys into a single direction could be the formula for glory, or for collapse. The leadership behind the scenes moved like on a chessboard. With each piece moved, a new implication arose. A familiar name in negotiations resurfaced. The acclaimed forward, who had already experienced playing alongside the sharpshooting point guard, forming a lethal duo that terrorized entire defenses. They knew what it was like to share the spotlight. They had won together. But this proposal wasn't just about repeating the past. It was about rebuilding something even greater, and this time, alongside a third piece, an icon who, until then, had been a direct rival in epic battles. This third player, with numerous finals under his belt and a unique ability to command the game, was also one of the sport's strongest personalities. He wasn't just a star, he was an almost mythical figure who transcended the game. Having him on board automatically meant global attention, but also required a system that allowed him to maintain his influence without compromising team chemistry. The dilemma was clear. How could three stars, used to leading on their own, function together without losing their identity? In Ashley Moss's view, the secret lay in maturity. These guys are no longer in the physical prime of their early 20s, she argued in one of her most widely discussed comments. But now they understand the game differently. They no longer have anything to prove to anyone. What they want is a memorable final chapter, a chance to write a story that will be told forever. And there was merit to that reasoning. In recent seasons, each of them had shown they still had fuel left in the tank. Even under constant pressure, they continued to perform at a high level, breaking records and defying time. It was as if the clock had slowed down for these athletes, granting them a few more pages in their already extensive resumes. But decisions didn't rely solely on individual desires or emotional logic. One of the players involved had publicly made it clear that he wanted to continue investing in his current team, even in the face of recent frustrations. The season had ended in disappointment, with an early playoff exit and a coaching change. Even so, he expressed confidence in moving forward. "I want to see what we can build with this group," he stated calmly. "I'm committed to my teammates. It's part of my nature to believe until the end." These words were interpreted in different ways. For some, it was a diplomatic statement, concealing a desire to leave at the right moment. For others, it represented a genuine conviction. In any case, it signaled that such a major change, like joining former rivals in a new project, wouldn't happen without resistance. On the other side of the equation stood a brilliant point guard with lethal instinct and contagious charisma. He had always been the face of his franchise, and although he had shared the stage with other stars before, he had never needed to give up his essence. For the plan to work, he too would have to accept a new dynamic, something that, according to sources close to him, he was willing to consider as long as there was clarity and purpose in the project. Internally, the organization trying to make this dream reunion happen had already studied all the scenarios. They had made the necessary contacts, kept discussions discreet, and had even, according to reports, attempted to move forward with a formal offer before the trade deadline. But the NBA world runs on timing, and at that moment, the stars were not yet aligned. As the trade deadline approached, the behind-the-scenes activity intensified. Franchise owners spoke directly. Executives contacted agents, and advisors analyzed every number, every contract clause, every future impact, all to try to make one of the most ambitious alliances of the modern era a reality. The attempt, however, was rejected. The current team of one of the athletes saw no advantage in giving up its greatest symbol, even in light of a potential rebuild. And according to league sources, the player himself wasn't excited about the idea at that moment either. That didn't stop speculation from continuing. The mere fact that the proposal existed, even if denied, reignited the collective imagination. After all, if there had been even a spark of intent, perhaps there was still a future opening, and fans, as always, clung to hope. Social media exploded with photoshopped images, projected starting fives, heated debates. In dedicated forums, analysts dissected every technical detail of the potential lineup. How they would play together on the court, who would take control in decisive moments, what kind of rotation the ideal coach would design. It wasn't just a thought experiment. It was a reflection of a generation that grew up watching those three shape the game. They weren't just players. They were living narratives. And seeing them together, even for a short while, seemed like the natural conclusion to an era. As the discussions intensified, a new factor began to emerge: time. None of them were young. Even though they remained competitive, the years were advancing, and with them, the inevitable physical decline. It was now or never. If the idea was to materialize, it had to happen soon. Future seasons might no longer offer the same window of opportunity. Injuries, wear and tear, retirement, all of that loomed on the horizon. And that's when the question arose, the one everyone avoided, but which needed to be asked. Did the players themselves truly want this? Deep down, were they willing to set aside rivalries, pride, and past histories to write one last chapter together? That answer had not yet been given, but the signs were there. Discreet, subtle, yet present. Between the lines of the game, in everything that isn't seen in live broadcasts or final scores, a silent transformation was underway. Time, relentless, moved forward for everyone, even for the greatest. But in the case of these three central figures from the last era of basketball, time seemed to act with a curious duality. While it brought them closer to the end, it also created an unprecedented, almost poetic urgency for something grand to happen. Perhaps that's why, even in the face of denials, the buzz never died down. The media remained alert to every statement, every gesture, every repost on social media. Small actions became signals, likes on speculative posts, off-season meetups, shared workouts. Nothing went unnoticed. The fans, of course, saw in this a hope disguised as coincidence. Were they rehearsing a reunion? Was there already a silent desire behind the scenes? After all, no matter how much the franchises controlled contracts and negotiations, there was something only the players themselves could offer: the genuine will to be part of it. Meanwhile, the league watched closely. The commissioner understood the value of powerful narratives. He had seen historic duos dominate the NBA, but a trio like this would transcend the boundaries of sport. It would be pure entertainment. It would be legacy. It would be something that would redefine how basketball history would be told in the coming decade. The idea grew like a wave. On one side, the brilliant point guard whose off-ball movement confused entire defenses, turning every offensive possession into a display of intelligence and precision. On the other, the wing who seemed sculpted for modern basketball, able to drive, shoot from anywhere, guard multiple positions, and do it all with a composure that bordered on the supernatural. And completing the triangle, the veteran leader who had long been synonymous with strength, court vision, and the ability to carry teams on his back. Together, the three represented what basketball had become: versatility, intelligence, physical conditioning, and above all, a winning mindset. Having them on the same roster wouldn't just be a bold move, it would be the synthesis of an era. But not everything was romanticism. Behind the fascination lay practical reality: massive salaries, franchise financial limits, cap space impact, and roster depth. Forming this trio would demand sacrifices, even from the players themselves, who might have to give up money or spotlight. And still, some believed that if the goal was to write the final chapter in epic fashion, every concession would be worth it. Over the summer, rumors emerged that representatives of two of the stars had informal talks, nothing that could be classified as an official negotiation, that would violate league rules. But contact between players had always been common. After all, the NBA wasn't just rivalry. It was also friendship, respect, and shared experiences over the years. And there was, in particular, a memory that deeply connected two of those players. Together, they had already proven they could be unstoppable. They had lifted trophies, dominated finals, silenced critics. They knew how to play alongside each other, even when the whole world expected them to fail. The chemistry was there. The history, too. The third element, on the other hand, came from a different path. He had never shared a locker room with the others. He had faced them in fierce battles, winning some, losing others. The respect was mutual, but there were scars, too. For it all to work, those wounds would need to truly heal. In league hallways, the feeling was mixed. Some analysts said it would be impossible to unite all three without hurting the rest of the roster, that the market lacked the depth to build a competitive team around them. Others argued that even without major supporting players, the raw talent and experience of the trio would outweigh any imbalance. And the average fan? They didn't care about spreadsheets. They wanted the show. They wanted, for a moment, to relive the feeling of watching those unforgettable finals, the one-on-one duels that stopped the world, the improbable plays that seemed to defy the laws of physics. More than a tactical move, this union would be a symbol, a nod to an entire generation that grew up admiring these three idols. A way to close out an era with the greatness it deserved. It might last only one season, maybe just a few months, but the cultural impact of such an event would be felt for years. Documentaries would be made. Kids would start playing because of this trio. Older fans would say, "I saw that happen." And it wasn't just in the United States. The entire world followed every step of this potential story. In European arenas, African academies, Asian street courts, everyone knew these names. Everyone dreamed of this union. A European journalist summed it up well. This would be like Pelé, Maradona, and Messi playing together. It's more than a team. It's mythology. Even if it was still just speculation, the rumor had already done what it needed to. Spark imagination. Give people a chance to believe, even briefly, that something like this could really happen. And if basketball is also about emotion, why not let the impossible be, at least for a while, a possibility? As the transfer market approached a new window, the backstage world was heating up. People close to the players avoided commenting. There was silence. And that silence was, paradoxically, loud. Because where there had once been categorical denials, now there was hesitation. And where there was hesitation, a chance could be born. The NBA landscape is heating up with rumors that promise to shake not just the upcoming season, but the global outlook of the league. Among these movements, one in particular has been drawing the attention of fans, analysts, and basketball enthusiasts around the world. The Golden State Warriors are quietly working to make the signing of a name that could become a game-changer for the franchise a reality. That name is the young Filipino center Kai Sotto, whose potential arrival in San Francisco is being met with anticipation and excitement, not just for technical reasons, but for everything he represents off the court. The mere possibility of seeing Kai Sotto wearing a Warriors jersey is already stirring social media and sports portals. The franchise's interest is no coincidence. Kai's impressive height, his technical attributes, and especially his journey so far, make this pursuit a strategic move with multiple layers of significance. If it comes to fruition, this acquisition will be much more than a reinforcement in the paint. It will be a symbol of cultural connection and representation, particularly for the millions of basketball-loving Filipinos, both in their homeland and across the diaspora. Standing at 7'2", 2.18 meters, Kai is impossible to miss on any court. But his presence goes beyond just his stature. What truly impresses is the way he uses his physical frame intelligently, combining agility and technique in a game that keeps evolving. His ability to read plays, position himself precisely, and impact both ends of the floor has made him an increasingly watched prospect by NBA scouts. On defense, his wingspan and reaction time make him an elite rim protector, the kind that intimidates any opponent approaching the basket. But his true differential lies in his offensive capabilities. Unlike conventional centers who operate strictly near the rim, Kai shows rare versatility for his position. He can shoot mid-range jumpers with solid accuracy, which opens up a wide range of possibilities within modern basketball strategies. This ability to stretch the floor is increasingly valued, and in that regard, Kai already stands out as a special talent. His story is a whole chapter in itself. Born in the Philippines, a country where basketball holds an almost sacred place in popular culture, Kai began to attract attention early on. With a natural combination of height and skill, he quickly stood out in youth competitions and began to be seen not just as a national promise, but as an international one. From there, he embarked on a journey marked by bold decisions and massive challenges. As a teenager, he made the decision to leave home and seek technical development in more competitive environments. Australia was his first international stop, where he played in the NBL, facing experienced and demanding opponents. It was there that he began to shape his identity as a professional player, learning to compete at a high level and to stand out even under difficult circumstances. He proved to be reliable on defense, efficient on offense, and above all, an athlete with personality and determination. His evolution took him to Japan's B-League, where he continued his rise. There, Kai established himself as one of the league's main figures, gaining visibility not just for his numbers on the court, but for how he carried himself as a representative of Filipino basketball on foreign soil. With humility, talent, and discipline, he became a true ambassador of the sport, admired by teammates, opponents, and fans alike. Every phase of this journey has shaped the profile of a player ready for the big stage. Today, Kai Sotto is more than just a promise. He's a solid reality, with the potential to make an impact in the NBA. And for the Warriors, who in recent years have been looking for ways to renew their identity and remain competitive in the league's constantly evolving landscape, Kai's arrival could be the key to unlocking a new era. The Golden State Warriors' playing style is globally known, dynamic, fast-paced, based on smart movement and precise perimeter shooting. But one aspect the team has often lacked is physical presence in the paint. A center capable of protecting the rim, consistently grabbing rebounds and contributing offensively is a much-desired profile and rarely found. Kai fits those needs perfectly, being the kind of athlete who can complement the roster with excellence. If signed, Kai Sotto could elevate the team's performance in multiple areas. His ability to dominate both offensive and defensive rebounds would give the team greater control over the pace of the game. In transition, that translates to more possessions, more opportunities, and of course, more points. Defensively, his imposing presence would add a layer of rim protection the team has been desperately seeking. On offense, Kai's mid-range shooting talent and his mobility in the half-court would give a new dimension to the team's offensive system. He wouldn't just be a finisher, but also a play facilitator, someone capable of drawing defenders and opening up space for his teammates. Players like Stephen Curry would benefit directly from this, gaining more freedom to execute their already famous shots and movements. But there's something even deeper at play: representation. The Bay Area, home to the Golden State Warriors, has one of the largest Filipino communities outside the Philippines. Kai's presence on the team would create a powerful cultural and emotional bond between the team and this segment of the population. It would be a symbolic gesture of recognition and appreciation for that community, and a powerful catalyst for engaging a new generation of fans. And this isn't just about marketing, though the impact in that aspect would be considerable. Kai has a huge and loyal fan base, especially in his home country. His signing with the Warriors would expand the franchise's reach throughout Asia, particularly in strategic markets like the Philippines, where interest in the NBA is enormous. The team's visibility would skyrocket, and engagement with sponsors and commercial ventures would multiply. Kai is, at his core, an example of resilience and perseverance. His journey from a kid with big dreams in the Philippines to a potential NBA player is inspiring. It represents the idea that talent and effort, when paired with the courage to face the unknown, can transform destinies. And that's exactly the message that makes his possible arrival in the NBA so meaningful, not just for basketball, but for all the young people who see themselves in his story. His presence on the Warriors would inspire thousands of young athletes around the world, especially in regions where opportunities are still limited. The Kai Sotto effect could be transformational, not just for the growth of the sport in the Philippines, but for strengthening the sense of belonging within the Asian diaspora. And it's at this intersection of talent, cultural impact, and strategic vision that this potential signing takes on dimensions larger than the game itself. So, did you enjoy the video? Then don't forget to leave a like. It really helps the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates. Turn on the notification bell to get all our content firsthand. Thanks a lot for sticking with us. We're in this together, and see you in the next video.